You ever get that feeling, that fear of starting something big, a new project, a new business, maybe even just a personal goal? All because you're terrified that if you don't finish it, every ounce of effort was for nothing? It's a huge fear, and it can be paralyzing. Well, today, we're going to dig into a pretty radical idea from an ancient text that says some actions are, believe it or not, literally unbreakable. They can never, ever be wasted. Okay, let's get into it.
I mean, seriously, think about it. You pour months, maybe even years, into a startup, and it folds. Or you write 300 pages of a novel, but you never get to that last chapter. You practice guitar for ages, but never quite master it. In this world we live in, a world that's all about results, what do we call those things? Yeah, we call them failures.
And look, that's just conventional wisdom, right? The source material we're looking at today totally gets that. It acknowledges that for most of the stuff we do, the material work, you have to see it all the way through, 100%. If you don't, the whole thing's a loss. I mean, building 99% of a bridge still gets you nowhere. There's no profit, zero return on your investment.
But what if there was a type of effort that just played by completely different rules? This is where this ancient philosophy comes in and offers this powerful counterargument, a way of acting without that constant fear of leaving things unfinished.
And here it is. This is the core promise from the Bhagavad Gita. It's talking about a very specific type of action where there is no loss. None. And not only that, it says even a tiny little step on this path can save you from what it calls the most dangerous type of fear. And you could argue that's the fear of a wasted life, right? So, what on earth is this special endeavor?
So let's unpack this idea of the ultimate, unbreakable investment. This really gets to the core of what makes this kind of action so different from pretty much everything else we do.
Okay, so the text defines this special path as devotional action. Now, I know that sounds religious, but the principle here is really all about your motive. We're talking about work that's done for a higher purpose, not for personal material reward. Think about a scientist who's not in it for the Nobel Prize, but to actually help humanity. Or an artist who creates not for fame, but to express some kind of universal truth. It's that shift in why you're doing it that changes everything.
So, what we have here is a really clear split, a distinction between two totally different ways of working and living. Let's break down this comparison, because it's absolutely crucial for understanding the big idea here. And wow, the contrast is pretty stark when you lay it out like this. On the one hand, you've got material action. The goal is personal gain. If it's incomplete, it's a failure. And the results? They're temporary. They end when we do. But then you have spiritual action. That's selfless work. The goal is a higher purpose. Any progress you make is permanent. And the result is said to be transcendental, meaning it lasts way beyond our physical life. And this is probably the most radical claim of all. This philosophy says that even 1% of this kind of work, this devotional work, creates a permanent result. 1%. In a world where 99% can still add up to zero, this is a completely different kind of math.
This chart just illustrates it perfectly, doesn't it? Over on the left, you see it. 99% of a material project, if you don't finish it, can give you absolutely zero profit. But look at the right. Even a tiny 1% slice of spiritual, selfless action creates a result that is never lost. It's kind of like making a deposit in a bank account that can never, ever be closed.
And to really hammer this point home, the commentary brings in a quote from a related text, the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And it asks this great rhetorical question. If someone starts on this selfless path and then fails, doesn't finish, what if they actually lost? And the implied answer is, of course, absolutely nothing. The progress they made is locked in. But then it flips the script. It asks about the other side of the coin. What can a person really gain in the grand scheme of things, even if they do all their material stuff perfectly? It's one of those questions that's meant to just make you stop and think about how temporary worldly success really is.
So, what does this permanent result actually look like? This is where the whole philosophy makes its most profound claim. It's not just about this life. We're talking about a guarantee for the future.
Okay, so first the baseline. All our material achievements, our careers, our money, our status, it's all tied to our physical body. And according to this framework, when the body ends, so do they. You can't take it with you.
But in total contrast, any work that's done with that selfless, devotional mindset, well, that creates a permanent effect that actually carries you forward. So the huge takeaway here is that this kind of investment literally transcends death.
So how's that supposed to work? Well, the source describes this sort of spiritual carryover effect. Any progress you make in this selfless work gets recorded. It's like a spiritual credit. And this credit then ensures that you get a really good starting position in your next life, which lets you basically pick up right where you left off.
And the text gets pretty specific about what favorable means, at least from its cultural perspective. It suggests being born into, say, a family of great learning and culture, or into a rich, aristocratic family. The idea is that these are environments that would give you the stability and the opportunity to keep going with your spiritual development without a lot of struggle.
Which really brings us all the way back to this central question, right? When you're faced with these two paths, one where even perfect success is temporary, and another where even total failure is permanent, what does it even mean to truly gain something?
And what's so interesting is that the commentary points out a parallel in Christian scripture, which just shows this is a universal human question. What's the real profit in gaining everything this world has to offer if it costs you your eternal self? It just completely reframes how we think about profit and loss.
So, we'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. This philosophy is basically saying that the motive behind your actions is what makes them permanent or temporary. So if you really knew for sure that every selfless act, every single effort you made for a higher purpose was an unbreakable investment building a permanent legacy, what would you do differently today?